Good evening and welcome to Realty Coffee Talk on Awaz Entertainment in Canada around the world. My name is Tahir Qureshi. I'm a fellow of Rules Issue of Canada and broker of record for City Pro Realty Inc. brokerage, also principal broker of Canada Express Mortgage Inc. license number 13241. I'm your host. Tonight we're going to talk about a few things about real estate and mortgage governance. There are a lot of changes happening in these two professions. One is Real Estate Council of Ontario is going to introduce some videos about real estate changes from REBA to TRESA. It's effective April 1st, 2023. There are major changes happening. Is very, very important for registrant as well as consumer to read them and listen to the video. If they have any question, they can write to the registrar at reco.on.ca. It's very, very important. There was one video was issued regarding regarding clarification that there will be no more customer service. They are eliminating effective April 1st, and they are being replaced either a buyer or a seller self-represent themselves, or they enter into a representation agreement with a brokerage. And there is very clarity video. And before I comment, I recommend that you watch that video. Today, I have seen another video, number 2, that talks about TRESA. And they're going to be issuing series of videos to talk about that. So the video number 2 is talks about disclosures, when to give disclosure as a registrant when you are dealing with the consumer, and also consent. When did you receive the consent when you are going to do a multi-representation, you're advertising, or you're doing a multiple representation? When do you need that? Also, acknowledgement. When you're going to present your disclosure of consent, you need to get acknowledgement, including your agreement of purchase and sale, buyer representation agreement, seller representation agreement, or you have a disclosure of benefits. You have to give notification. And also content of representation agreement. When you are entering into an agreement of a buyer representation or a seller representation agreement, you talk about in detail what relationship and what they can perform. So it's very, very important for you to go to reco.on.ca and watch that video. I just shared that video on LinkedIn. As you know, I am a candidate for RECO Board of Director for Region 1. If you are a realtor, you watch my program and you are Region 1, you can vote for me. Also, in mortgage industry, there is always happening, particularly because of high interest rate, the buyer is not able to fulfill their obligation and they go to the private lenders. The FISRA has introduced new courses for private lending practice. So I am taking their courses, very interesting, and you learn a lot about the disclosure, knowing your client and what product is suitable and when to give disclosure, who you are representing, whether you are a buyer, a borrower, or is in a private lending, because their system is different. They want to have a more transparency and governance. Why? It's all about consumer protection. Our both agency, FISRA and RECO, they are acting as a regulator on behalf of the government of Ontario to protect consumer. They have registration program. They've defined education. I am doing right now private lending because I have a principal broker. So I am learning through the school about what is definition of private lending, how clearly this needs to be disclosed to the borrower when they come to there. You know, what happened is I'm going to talk to you about a survey that I did about why the buyer defaults on agreement of purchase and sale. What happened? What are the causes of that? And I'm going to talk about my survey shortly. But the important thing for all of you to remember is that we, as a registrant, whether you're a mortgage broker or you are a real estate broker, we are obligated to fulfill our obligation in the code of ethics under the appropriate law. So we are obligated to honor that. Otherwise, we will be breaching MBLLA or TRISA. So therefore, it's very important for us to understand that, because it's very likely someone unintentionally violate that, and then you can have a severe consequences and penalties and disciplinary action, because a consumer will report to the regulator. So is it not important for us to understand the governance process and also understand under which we have the license to practice real estate? So this is important for us to read this, watch this, listen, ask questions. It's amazing that all our regulators, they want you to learn, ask questions. And this is why I'm very keen of increasing awareness so consumers have trust in real estate. And when you talk about real estate, financing, mortgage is part of the real estate, even though it's a separate profession. You got to have a license in order to practice. Otherwise, you'll be in trouble. So I have both licenses as a principal broker license and as well as my broker of record license with RICO. So it's very, very important to understand that. And we have a brokerage, whether it's real estate or mortgage, we have complying officer. We have a protocol of entertaining complaints from the consumer. So see if there is anyone in your brokerage is violating any code of ethics. And this is the responsibility come on the principal broker or the owner of the brokerage, whether it's real estate or the mortgage brokerage, to make sure you are in compliance. You have a protocol and people can complain about you and you can go address them. But why? Why don't we prevent them? Why don't we read ourselves? When we are talking to our client, we educate them about it. This is why it's very important for all of us to learn. Learning never stops because life keeps teaching us. When few of us are causing problem, they're not following the code of ethics or regulation. They're doing something that harm the industry or the profession or the reputation of our profession in the marketplace. Then what happened? The regulator has no choice to enforce very stringent penalties for those who violate the law. Now they are RICO. Amazing. RICO is providing such a clear clarity by introducing these videos, and also then you and the PDF copy you can download. If you are a registrant in Ontario, download it. I was just looking at the part 2, the TRISA video, and also I downloaded the PDF copy. They talk about disclosure, contents, and acknowledgement. When to disclose, when to obtain the consent, and acknowledgement. Idea is that you are in a timely fashion disclosing that information to a potential buyer, whether you plan to do a multiple representation or about the property. And as I mentioned to you, if you look at the video number 1, it talks about that either you are going to hire a brokerage or broker to represent you as a client, or you're going to independently represent. Now the goal of responsibility is on the registrant to make sure you honestly share the information where necessary, and then you have to protect your client and let buyer or a seller, whoever that is, to seek a competent advice. Therefore, you are putting them back to the professional to help them. If they need to ask you to do the representation, then you will have to get the consent prior to. Lots of people are doing consent simultaneously when they're sending their offer. No, I think the consent has to be obtained before you hire or retain that client. This is very, very important to do that. Check that out. So they have defined this very clearly when to do that, especially multiple representation, unless you didn't do a proper disclosure. And even though you got the paper signed, you could be held responsible because how you got that consent and disclosure is done in the proper way. And timing of the disclosure is important because when you are disclosing, what time did you disclose? Are you doing the paperwork to fill your file, or did you timely disclose that before acceptance of the offer? You talk about various aspects depending if your disclosure is about your family member has interest in the property, then you should be disclosing in a timely manner before the buyer accept or seller accept that. So this is one of these. And also client versus prospective clients. Client you already have. If you have a seller representative, you already have that. Now the buyer is coming to see you, and you want a consumer that needs to be represented, but you have to have a consent from both parties, and this is why. And also conflict of interest. If there is a conflict of interest, you have to disclose that in a timely manner, and this is why when to disclose it. And these are the things that I want you to read them, and we're going to do a special program on this. And also direct and indirect interest. Lots of realtors get referral fees paid, but they don't complete their form, URIA form that talk about disclosure and benefit. It's not in the file. You got to have that because you're benefiting from it. You have your BRA talks about that you're entitled to receive referral fee, but that document does not tell you how much. What kind of benefit are you getting? So there is a URIA form, I believe, 244. You have to check it out and use that form to disclose it. This is, I'm going to get 0.5% of fee based on the mortgage. If the buyer, if the lender that I recommended you, and this money will come to your brokerage, not to you. Okay. So this is very important that you disclose it. Don't do that after. And also, if you have an appraisal guy, he's a friend of yours and he's very close, even though it's very difficult to do that, but if it's a family related, you have to make sure they're disclosed. And most importantly is about material facts. You are legally obligated when there is something legal that you must disclose to the potential buyer. So you need to educate the seller that I have to do that. I cannot. You may have to walk away from the business. And this on page 6 of this video 2 content by Rico explained you that. So I am not going to go through it. I want you to go read that. Watch the video. There are 10 pages of video to explain in a PDF form you can download. And this is available to everybody, either consumer or as well as to registrant. Now, the fact about the property, seller is legally obligated to disclose. Lots of people, all the registrant, if they feel, oh my God, it's going to be tough for me to do it, walk away because you don't want to breach the agreement, breach the law, because you can get in trouble. If sooner or later this will be discovered by the buyer when they occupy it. So then it'd be very troublesome for you. So now, particularly about the property information, if you have a signed information sheet from the seller, disclose it. Now, this is very important. All disclosure needs to be made before it takes place. Need to be made. Number two, if you require any consent to represent multiple representation or advertising, it has to be in writing. And also when you have to have an acknowledgement, because you have four parties involved: seller agent, buyer agent, you have a seller, and a buyer. So four party. All those parties needs to be informed. Now, if you have a multiple representation or a bidding war going on, then you have other type of obligation to other realtors who are working with you. That means broker to broker as a professional cooperating with each other. And this is why it's very, very important. Not only you disclose, but also share the information. Now you have agreement that you have signed as a buyer or seller. So go and read this. So this covers a lot of information. This particular video is disclosure, content, acknowledgement required under TRISA. This disclose that. And the content of representation agreement, it explained that. So, and also video, read this, because it elimination of customer service relationship, changes to how client and representation agreement are defined, rules related to interaction with self-represented parties, and the mandatory RICO information guide, and also the mandatory RICO information and disclosure to self-represented party form that should be coming, and new code of ethics, changes to the disciplinary committee's power and scope of authority, and other key changes including the disclosure of content of competing offers. The video in this series, bulletins and other information are available on RICO's website. And this is beautiful. RICO is going out of the way to create videos and also contain this information. Similarly, on the private lending, you have to go to FISRA website if you are a mortgage agent involved with the private lending, because of escalation of interest rate and stress tests, lots of people were forced to go to the private lending, and private lending is need to be clarified. So MBLA has been changed and improved, and FISRA has now given guidelines about establishing a new course for private lending. No other agent can do practice for private lending unless they're licensed. So it's effective April 1st. And this is why it's very important that everybody has a good education. Now we're going to take a short break. We'll come back. We'll talk about a poll that I did about why buyers are defaulting on agreement of purchase and sale. We'll come back to you after the break.
HK Movers. Home, offices, apartments and delivery. Big or small, we move it all.
HK Movers.
Local and long distance. We also ship cars, Keller transport and moving services.
For service with a smile, give us a call.
Call Mr. Harminder 416-524-6704.
416-524-6704 पे.
Visit 140 Advance Boulevard, Unit number 10, Brampton.
Long distance moving specialist.
HK Movers. HK Movers.
Are you going through a challenging time with your life? Pandit Nandha ji has experience in astrology, helping people by reading into their astrological charts along with future readings. The astrologer does reading of your face, palm, horoscope, vastu, planet, black magic removal, evil spells and spirits, voodoo, spiritual healer, love, removes jadoo, and many more. The astrologer has a center in Brampton with the name of Pandit Nandha ji, where you can visit him and find a solution to all your problems. Connect with him at 1-647-822-9607.
Khan and Shawarma. Now serving from 4 locations.
KK Travel believe in providing everyone the first class customer service. We take care not only for your air ticket but dignity and respect as well. We are available for you anytime on WhatsApp, even while you are in Pakistan or any other destination. KK Travels guarantee lowest prices and are open to price match any airline.
We are KK Travels under supervision of Gas Khan at 905-367-9433 or visit www.gaskhontravels.com.
Welcome to EB Electronics. Please call 647-762-3956.
डिक्सी इलेक्ट्रॉनिक्स और अप्लायंसेस पिछले 16 सालों से खरीदारों की खिदमत कर रहे हैं। हम लगातार 4 सालों से खरीदारों की पहली पसंद बने रहने का अवार्ड हासिल कर चुके हैं। हम किचनर्स, बॉश, वर्लपूल, एलजी, सैमसंग और जनरल इलेक्ट्रिक के ऑथराइज्ड डीलर हैं। 5 स्टार खिदमत का लुत्फ लें। हम आप सभी को टीवी सबसे ज्यादा रियायती दामों पर देने की गारंटी देते हैं। www.dixieelectronics.ca हमारी वेबसाइट पर जाएं या अभी कॉल करें 905-625-5900। सभी बहुत ही मुनासिब कीमत पर दस्तयाब हैं जो आप बाआसानी से ले सकते हैं। At Dixie, we sell quality and deliver confidence. जो आप बाआसानी से ले सकते हैं। At Dixie, we sell quality and deliver confidence.
Good evening and welcome to Realty Coffee Talk on Awaz Entertainment in Canada, around the world. My name is Tahir Qureshi. I'm your host. I am going to share with you a poll that I conducted. What is the main reason that the buyer is not able to fulfill the condition of an agreement of purchase and sale? And I pose 4 questions to the buyer, to the public. 1, is it appraisal that comes lower than agreement of purchase and sale? Is it affordability, interest rate? Number 3, is it an increase of down payment? And 4, non-disclosure. So let's talk about it. You know, when buyer negotiates an agreement of purchase and sale and acquire a property and firm up the deal, the buyer is making a commitment to complete that transaction on a specified completion date. There could be several reasons why a buyer could not complete a deal. I pose those 4 questions, and the result is 75% voted the reason the buyer could not complete a transaction is based on appraised value came lower than the negotiated APS. So that means the reason could be that the buyer takes a longer closing, and then the reduction in the market value of the property may cause the appraisal to come lower, and the buyer could not afford the gap between the APS and appraised value, thus defaulting on its APS with the seller. So that means 75%. So if you are buying a property, try to get the closest possible deal. Fortunately, the Bank of Canada has frozen so far two times now to increase the benchmark policy rate. But that doesn't mean that it's going to stop, because they're going to be still watching inflation rate, where it's going to end up. The projection is below 3% this year. but we still have a long way to go. So it's important for the buyers. Two things. Number one, try to close it sooner. Number two, if you have to sell your property, then put a condition there, subject to sale of the property. People will not going to take it. Then sell your property before you buy it and keep a shortest possible closing time, because in case there is any fluctuation in the prices, because bank will not guarantee. We did a poll on that where we have asked people to ask them if the government will take actions to amend the laws to allow and force banks to fulfill their obligation when they give you unconditional commitment for a financing and later on price change and the consumer go default. Why not the bank will absorb that? They have the power of doing it. And this is why it's very, very important that you do that. But we don't know whether politicians will do that or not. Now, second was 13% voted that the affordability and interest rate hikes could be the reason for buyers not able to fulfill their obligation under the APS. Why could be reason? If the appraised value came lower, because go back, value rose, there is a gap in between. And because of that gap, and interest rate gone up. Before, when they got the commitment, interest rate was 4%, now it's 5%. So there is escalation of cost that buyer cannot afford. He cannot borrow. And that could be another 13% of those. Now, 12% voted increased down payment. Down payment. Because if you don't have a down payment, you cannot come up with, because when you got increased value, then you have to pay for the difference. And that down payment is increased because let's assume the gap is 100,000 between the APS and the appraised value. That buyer has to come up with. If they don't have the down payment, they will not be able to get their mortgage, their default. So this is why it's important. No, there was no comment about disclosure. There was no issue, all the deals that have failed because of non-disclosure. That means non-disclosure is also, I point out to you, people have missed it. If buyer has not disclosed something to the lender and they discover during, for example, they say, oh, I'm working for ABC company, and they provide all the paperwork, and later on they call the employer. He say, oh, this employee doesn't exist. So that's called non-disclosure. And it's fraudulent. Therefore, if that something happens, the bank will not give them the money. And this is where the non-disclosure is important. That means if you make sure your client has disclosed all the information they need to get their mortgage. So these are the four priorities, but they said non-disclosure was not the issue. Biggest issue was appraised value, because appraised value had trickle effect, because your down payment, you need more. Your interest rate is gone up, that's increased more, and you can afford it. And that's why everything is linked together. So I highly recommend that when you are buying a property, try to get a shorter possible time so you don't absorb that. The purpose of sharing this poll is to increase awareness and building consumer confidence in real estate. If you visit realtycoffeetalk.com, you can watch all my episodes also on YouTube, or subscribe to Awaz Entertainment on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube, and everywhere you will find Awaz Entertainment in Canada, around the world. Thank you for watching. I hope tonight's program was any benefit to you. If you have any question, feel free to call me. My number is 416-451-3489. I am a real estate broker of record for City Pro Realty Inc. brokerage. I'll be more than happy to assist you. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next Thursday at 7 p.m. Bye for now. May God bless you all. May God bless Canada. Bye for now.